If I could pick any actor, actress, who would I pick to work with? Well, that's a really hard one because it really depends on the role. I mean, sometimes even when you have the opportunity to work with really good actors, they just don't quite fit into the role that you've got on the page. I mean, some young actors I really like Joseph Gordon-Levitt, who was in Brick. As I said before, I really like George Clooney. And then there's actors and actresses like Robin Wright, who's great. What's my favourite film of all time? Well, that's a really hard one because I watch a lot of films, and my favourite film changes quite a lot. And I think if your favourite film when you're younger is it changes as you get older into different films. And sometimes you remember a film being your favourite film and you'll watch it again, and the next time you watch it, you don't like it as much, or maybe you like it even more. I mean, films that I really like. I really like Doctor Strangelove. I'm a big fan of Stanley Kubrick. It's probably one of my favourites. I really love Fight Club. I think Fight Club is one of the best films of the past 20 years, and I'm a huge David Fincher fan. I really love Blue Velvet by David Lynch. Now I'm just listing whole loads. I'm sort of dodging the question by listing loads of them. My favourite film when I was growing up as a kid was Ferris Bueller's Day Off, and so I still have a really soft spot. Is Eddie Marsden as nice as he seems in the interviews? Well, yes, he is. He's a wonderful guy, and he's a brilliant actor. I mean, the thing with Eddie is when he's acting, he sort of stays. He doesn't stay in character, but he stays sort of close to the character. So when he was doing kind of the brutal part of the film, which we shot in kind of the first week of shooting, he was quite intense, even off set. But then as time went on, he kind of really softened up, and as everybody got to know each other, and as the content of his performance got a little bit didn't really get much lighter, but he got less dark, I guess. And he was great, and I'd love to work with him again. And he's a great guy. So yes, he is. From Ghana, Mike Lee claims the problem with the British film industry is that British films produce too closely resemble television dramas that audiences see every night on TV screen. True, false? Well, I think the British film industry isn't one thing. I think there's a lot of British films that look a lot like TV, but if they've got a really compelling story, then it doesn't matter. I mean, one of my favourite films of last year was a British film, which is Fish Tank, the Andrew Arnold film. And even though that had similar content to what you might see on TV, so like, a kid from a council estate in Essex, and it was a kind of coming-of-age story set around kind of gritty urban area. It had a real sort of Hitchcockian tension to it that I loved, and it was a really intense experience. And it was a purely cinematic experience, even though she shot it in 4:3 ratio, which is, I'm doing it now, which is like a TV screen. Well, not anymore, but like an old-fashioned TV screen. And for me, that was a great film, even though it was, people could accuse it of looking like TV. I mean, I think there are lots of different aspects of British films. I mean, I think there's nothing really that connects them together apart from they're British. I mean, you have these costume dramas, you have these kind of romantic comedies. I mean, there's 2 films coming out this week by people I know, British films, and one's a romantic comedy and one's a coming-of-age sort of kind of weird, twisted love story. And they're both very British, but they're both different ends of the spectrum, but they're both very good. I mean, I think the problem with the British film industry, if there is a problem, is that it has to, because we've got the same language as Hollywood, which the rest of Europe doesn't, so they can, the French can have their own film industry and Spanish can have their own film industry, that we have to compete directly with America. So, we don't have the budgets and the distribution structure as America, so it's kind of a bit of a David and Goliath situation. So we have to kind of be really exceptional or exceptionally clever to compete with that. But and there's also a bit of it's not a problem, but a lot of British films aren't specifically commercial films, and that's fine. You've got your kind of from art cinemas. From the background of art cinema, like Peter Greenaway and Sally Potter, there's kind of like a history of art cinema and documentary cinema, and not a real history of kind of straight genre filmmaking. But now there's a resurgence of horror in the UK, and with films like mine, a thriller, hopefully there's a changing tide. What's the next one? Gemma said filming was very intense. They really liked funny stories to be told. There's no specific stories, I don't think, but there was a lot of laughter on set. I think when you're making something so intense like this, you have to keep a sense of humour. And I mean, everybody on the set is very respectful, and it's not like we were messing around, because the actors are going through some very, very intense emotions in their performances, and especially Gemma, she's going through some tough physical acting as well. So everybody's very respectful and very professional, but at the same time, because we had quite a small crew and we all got to know each other very well, it was all like it's almost like a big school trip, like a big family. And so, like in any family, there were jokes all the time. So between takes, there would be a lot of laughter, and when, as usual, when takes go wrong, there'll be people giggling. I don't think I can't think of anything specific. I mean, oftentimes it's when just things go wrong. So like there's a gun in the film, and sometimes the gun wouldn't fire. So like in the middle of a charge scene, and they're waiting for this big bang, and it wouldn't come, and that would basically lead to a fit of the giggles. And there's a scene where Alice has to eat soup, and there was an occasion where the soup was just very hot, and that made it quite fun. I mean, you know, when people start laughing on sets, that's kind of the definition of you really had to be there. But there was one bit which didn't involve Gemma, which was there's a moment at the beginning of the film where Danny and Vic, played by Eddie Marzan and Martin Compston, are buying a bed in a bed shop, and it's one of the simplest shots in the entire film, where Martin just had to sit on the bed and look up at Eddie and nod, but for some reason the two of them got the giggles, and that was the most takes we ever took of any shot, and that took 13 takes just to have him sit on the bed and look up at Eddie. And I mean, it wasn't their fault, it was the whole crew were giggling. So and it was great, because that meant, you know, we weren't short on time that day, and it just meant everybody could have a bit of a breather and a laugh, and then once we got over it, we go back to work, and everybody sort of feels good, like they're like it's not just all work really. What's the next one? Any final message to the Facebook supporters? Well, I just say keep on going, keep on voting. You know, I'd really like to see it a bit of a tussle. It's quite it's a bit of a one-horse race at the moment. So kind of get all your friends, get them all to sign up, get them all voting, because I'd love it to go right to the wire and sort of generate a real amount of interest. And then we've got one more here. I hear the film's going to Tribeca, which is awesome. We're looking forward to going. Absolutely. Very exciting to go to New York. It's going to be the US premiere of the film. I'm very excited about that, especially as Robert De Niro runs the festival. If I'm lucky, I might get to meet him. Though probably not. But that would be great. And we have another one. Is there any other genre of film you'd like to make? If so, what is it and why? I'd like to do any genre. I mean, I'm not a huge fan of straight down the line horror movies, really. So probably not horror, but I like all genres. I watch all genres, and I've written lots of different genres in the past, so I'll probably make all sorts of different genres. The next, maybe more thrillers, maybe some comedies, but we'll see, won't we? And do I run the Facebook page myself then? I don't run it myself, but I check in on there quite a lot. So if you've got any comments on the board, there's no doubt I will see them. So if you want to kind of keep on coming back and say anything, and comment on this thing and tell me how rambly and rubbish I've been, then do let me know. What film was the inspiration for my movie? There was no one film as inspiration. There's lots of different films. I mean, every film I watch is an inspiration, but it's you know, I try and find inspiration elsewhere rather than other films, because I love films, and you always get a little bit of information from other films, but there's no one strict film that was an inspiration for this one. Am I afraid of being kidnapped? I'm very afraid of being kidnapped, especially about Eddie Marzan and Martin Compston. I don't think there's any likelihood. I'll say this now, I'm online. Somebody might try and do it, but hopefully not. I would hate to be kidnapped. It's a horrible, horrible, terrorising thing. And I've actually spoken to people who've been kidnapped, and it can entirely ruin their lives. So I would hate to be kidnapped, and I don't wish it upon anyone. Thank you very much for tuning into the web chat. Thank you for all your wonderful questions, and keep on voting.